So we are getting ready for a very different Passover than previous years, and I think all of us are, and myself very much included in this, have had our Passover plans changed, and are trying to figure out how best to have Pesach, and particularly have the Pesach Seders when we're far away from each other, physically distant from each other. What is the ways in which we can try to connect with one another? Just we're in the mid. Yesterday wrote an email, and hopefully it'll go out tomorrow. Just kind of with some guidelines and some advice from us, from TBS, in terms of what to do and how to do it, with links and resources, some of which we're going to look at today on our Zoom today. But just a couple of things I want to put out there to make clear to begin with. And then I want to hear a little bit and have a chance to talk a little bit about some of the stresses of Passover, things you're thinking about, ideas, and really kind of make this more of a workshop than I guess, a real, this is how you do it, because I think we're all trying to figure out how to do it. I think we all have what to learn from each other in figuring out how to put Pesach together this year. So first of all, and there'll be a link of this in the email that'll hopefully go out tomorrow. If you're interested, you can check the Rabbinical Assembly webpage. But, just to be clear, the conservative movement, the Committee on Jewish Law and Standards, has said that this year, for Seders, given what's going on, you certainly can use video conferencing software, whether that's FaceTime or Zoom or whatever platform you're interested in using, you'd like to use. You can do that, acknowledging, that being far away from each other on Passover is a really hard thing to do. In addition to that, this is a whole kind of separate topic, but they also have on the website that's worth looking at, and again, there'll be a link for this in the email tomorrow, kind of some recommendations of possible accommodations when it comes to cleaning and Passover food. Essentially what that's for is, if somebody is not able to do a full cleaning on their own, or would normally bring in someone to help them do that, and is not able to do that this year for obvious reasons, kind of guidelines in terms of like what's really important you try to make sure to do, and some things that might make it a little easier from the cleaning perspective. And from the food perspective, also I think a really nice list of is kind of reminders of, there are certain foods like milk, for example, that if you buy it before Passover, it's fine. It doesn't need a special kosher Passover hechsher, things like that, and a reminder of what those foods are that can help us prepare, and also some other advice. I will say, something else you'll see there is the CJLS reiterates its a permissive stance on kitniot, which I know many of you know is something that I've been quite passionate about over the years. And I would say, first of all, they did not consult me on that before they did it. This was the chairs of the committee put this together, and they didn't run everything by the whole committee before they did it. But I mean, like, in all seriousness, like I've kind of counseled people in the past is, if you have a special diet or a special need, and and you need to eat beans and rice to help have a healthy diet over the course of Passover, then you should eat it, right? I mean, that certainly, is better than eating chametz, because kitniot, rice and beans, is not chametz. And also I would say, thankfully, since last time I was at ShopRite, we still have a very good Pesach selection in our community. I think we're fortunate for that, and it'll be, and I'm not sure it's so necessary to go to the kitniot yet. At the same time, I understand there are a lot of complicated factors this year, and there are financial factors this year too. And if rice and beans will make the holiday easier for you to observe, then go for it. But if you refrain, I will say, Harei zeh mishubach, meaning that is laudable. I am just writing in the chat because Steve asked me about that website. Just go to rabbinical.assembly.org. You'll see right on the page there's Passover guidance. Oops, sorry, let me send that to everybody now. And again, we'll be sending out that link in the email, God willing, tomorrow. Okay. So there we go. I sent that out right there. So let's, here's how I'd like to start. I mean, it's nice to see so many people on the call. I mean, clearly, I think that speaks to how much this is, this question is resonating for us. As we know, this year will be different than all other years. I mean, I just want to start, and I'm not sure if you've done this yet or not in your Zooms, but I want to send you to breakout rooms. which basically means we're going to put you in smaller groups to speak together. And I'm going to put you in with about, let's see, we'll say about 4 or 5 people per room, and I'm going to go around to the rooms. And it just gives us an opportunity in a smaller group just to chat a little bit. I mean, one, I think it's nice to check in with each other, see how everybody's doing. And second of all, excuse me, if you want to share kind of some of the challenges that you're experiencing with Passover and your Passover plans and some things you're thinking about, help get us our conversation started. Then we'll come back together and talk a bit together too. Okay. So how this is going to work is in a moment, I'm going to press the button and you are all going to be sent to a randomly assigned breakout room with 4 or 5 participants per room. So get ready for your teleportation. And then I'll be I'm going to be coming around between the rooms and just kind of visit everybody. When it's time to leave the room, I will summon you back, and it'll be a 1-minute countdown until you're sent back to the room, or you can check it out yourself. It's pretty cool. All right, so I'm going to send you out to your rooms. On your mark, hold on. Everybody ready? Seatbelts buckled? On your mark, get set.
I don't have a face.
In all rooms. Please accept my invitation to join your breakout room.
Sure.
All right, you should be able to accept the invitation to join the breakout room. If not, I will assign you. All right, I think everybody, let's see, what are we missing here? Oop. Oop.
here.
It's great to see everyone.
Well, everybody's muted.
Yeah, you have to.
Even Rabbi's muted.
I'm not muted.
Your dream is
Okay.
dream come true, Alvin.
Hardly. Hardly.
There's a couple that aren't muted.
Actually, I'll take that back. Rabbi, on Rosh Hashanah, when you give your sermon, yeah, that's my chance to sleep, so I should be able to mute you then. And
There you go. I know. It's one of my great fears. We're going to come back together and people just be like, where's that mute button?
There's
that mute button.
All right, let's see how we doing here.
Good.
Everybody
Good.
back?
Alvin, when I saw your face, all I could think of was how you love to make Pesach cakes. Happy baking.
That'll be next week. I'm looking forward to it. It'll be less than normal because we're not feeding as
Yeah,
many
too
people.
bad. You want to do a little delivery system?
There you go.
I think it's Zelda's birthday today.
Zelda.
It is.
Wow.
Happy birthday, Zelda.
Say Zelda.
Thank you.
Birthday.
Yeah.
Thank you. I can't find you. I know
Happy
you guys-
birthday,
Happy
Zelda.
Happy
birthday.
Florida.
Let's all sing 2 minutes to Zelda. You ready?
Sure.
Happy
birthday
to you.
Happy
birthday
to you.
Happy
birthday, dear Zelda. Happy birthday to you.
Many
more.
One more
It's
time.
definitely one that'll go down in the books.
Remember this one. Hi, Alan.
Memorable
Virtual
birthday, I
birthday.
think, for everybody. Good.
I
All
bet
right.
you never celebrated your birthday this way before.
Never virtually.
I hope you never do again.
Never again. I hope not.
Oh, bye.
Good. Good. All right. So I'm just gonna mute everyone again for a minute here to bring everybody back. Good to have you back. Hope you all enjoyed the breakout rooms. Kind of fun, right? A little bit of a neat function as we continue to learn the wonders of Zoom. And I also was able to visit many of them. I wasn't able to get to all of them, but I heard a lot of good conversations, a lot of idea sharing that was going on there. Does anybody want to share something that, and I'll ask you to use the raise hand function. There's so many people on, which is great, but it's hard for me to scroll through and see everybody's hand. If you hit the participants button on the bottom of the page, that bottom screen, hit participants, there's an option there where it says raise hand. And if you raise hand, it'll pop up on my screen. Excuse me. It'll pop up on my screen to say that, and it'll allow me to go right to you and to see if you have it. So if you want to raise your hand, if you have something you want to share, either an idea you've had or something you heard that you think will be useful to everybody, we'll go around and share a little bit for that. So I see Mark Fallick has his hand up. So Mark, you are unmuted.
Thanks, Rabbi. We were talking in our breakout group. I remember seeing an email, and I don't remember if it came from TBS or somewhere else, that gave some suggestions about substitutes for the Seder plate and the Seder if you have a hard time getting certain items. And I couldn't seem to find it in my email, but if that's something you could help us with, that'd be great.
Okay, great. So, in terms of the items for the Seder plate, and on the Rabbinical Assembly website, it suggested two. One, I know last time I was at ShopRite, you can only buy 2 cases of eggs at a time, but eggs were pretty much okay for that as far as I remember. Were there things in particular that you're having trouble getting? I mean, one is karpas is a pretty easy one to switch around. I think for many of us that means parsley, but it really can be any green vegetable, can be celery, it can be, and then some people use potatoes also for karpas too. So when it comes to that, there are other traditions that might not be your tradition, but in a year, if you have trouble getting parsley, for example, say for karpas, I think using a potato, which at least last time I checked, were still pretty plentiful, is something that you can use for that, and that's a custom that many people have. When it comes to the zroa, to the shank bone, I actually was able to get one at the Kosher Experience on Evesham last week. They still had them in the back if you asked for them, and he said he had plenty of them. If you're not able to go out there and to do that, you can, if you're eating other sources of meat, and another type of bone is perfectly fine to do. you know, even if, you know, I think even also if you print out a picture of a shank bone and put that on your Seder plate, because that's not something we're eating anyway, it's something that could be a decent substitute for that too. In terms of the maror, the horseradish seemed pretty plentiful. The actual horseradish roots, it might be a little bit harder to get this year, but the golds, whatever, that seems to be a fair amount of that. Or else the other thing you can use for maror too, which probably is the more accurate historical maror, is something like a romaine lettuce, actually. I mean, it's more bitter than kind of spicy, I guess, that a lot of maror is. Actually, my practice, because I like to do funny things, is I take some of like the Gold's horseradish and put it on the romaine lettuce and eat it together for maror, and then I feel like I'm fulfilling all opinions just in case. But that's my own mishigas. But that's also something you could do for maror. And on that Rabbinical Assembly page, it has this all written out there. If you go and take a look at their ideas for Passover, and it'll give some other suggestions. Okay. Good. I see Steve's hand is up. Let me unmute you, Steve. Or Steve, you can unmute yourself. Steve Sakaro.
One of the questions raised in our group, Rabbi, was whether or not there's a PDF version of the TBS Agada available, so that when people are sharing, doing Zoom Seders, they can be on the same.
Yes, great question. And as I announced in one group, I wanted to tell everybody, yes, there will be. We will be, and it'll be available through like the TBS members only page. There's a PDF link that you can download and you can use at your Seder or share with others for the Seder. We know that, there are people who've already gotten the Haggadot but can't get them to everybody who's going to be at their Seder, or people who didn't have a chance to order them yet. Also, we have a big shipment of them that we ordered a few weeks ago that is being held up at the moment that we're really anxiously waiting for too, to do some distribution there, which we're going to do hopefully one more distribution safely before Pesach comes. But there will be a PDF version of the Haggadah fully made available to everybody, and that'll be part of the email we'll send out. So thank you.
Thank you.
Good question. I saw another hand too. Where is that? Mindy. There you go.
One thing, and this is for future, for the shank bone, I don't know if this is permissible, but it's what I do. I keep the shank bone actually from year to year. I just keep it sealed in 2 Ziploc freezer bags in my freezer, because I have a Seder. It's usually with like 38 people and 4 different tables. And it's difficult for me to ask for 4 shank bones. So I just keep them in my freezer just for people for this year, for next year.
Great. That's perfectly fine to do.
Okay.
Any year. Okay. All right. Anybody else want to share something? I'm just trying to get my way through. So let me, oh, there we go. There's a few more. All right. Robert, go ahead. Yeah.
The list of pre-planning for the Seder to distribute to everybody, that we need everybody who's part of our Seder, I think it's going to be about, I don't know, whatever it is, 20 families, to hide the afikomen, a copy of the Haggadah in advance. I think we're going to have a kind of like a dry run to make sure everybody knows how to work the Zoom function. Just a brief, maybe 5-minute greeting for everybody. Also, we have there's always special events or special skits that were going to be more difficult to have. But I want to make sure that everybody participates in the singing as well. You don't want one person singing and everybody else is muted. So we have to I have to start thinking about protocol for the whole thing, what everybody needs to make sure that they do. That's why I think maybe a 5-minute Zoom meeting in advance of Seder would be beneficial.
Yeah, and that's something that I wanted to talk about a little bit too. I mean, I think we all, every year we say that, you shouldn't walk into your Seder cold, but it helps to do preparation, right? And to assign parts to people in advance and to really have a sense of what you're going to do and where you go. And I feel like this year's Seder, like it's alachat chama v'chama, like even more so, of trying to plan together with people going to be at your Seder physically or virtually, and try to assign those different parts. I mean, I'm sure you've noticed one of the challenging things on Zoom, I think this is a little easier on FaceTime, but on Zoom is, you know, kind of people singing at the same time or talking at the same time, just the way the speakers work for Zoom. It kind of overloads the system sometimes. So that's something, if you're using Zoom, to sort of be mindful of and to try to be aware of. FaceTime's a little easier for that, and I know there are other platforms too that might be a little better for that. But I do think getting together and having a real plan, and even having a pre-Seder meeting is really important this year. Good. All right, a couple more. Here we go. Let's take a couple more comments, and I want to share a few other resources. Rachel Kurz. Oops, sorry.
All right. The thing I'm asking is, how do you start by getting a meeting ID number?
So if you want to use Zoom and you don't have Zoom, just what you need, you have to go to the Zoom website, zoom.us, and you can sign up for a free basic account. The basic account is going to give you 40-minute meetings. That's the limit on it. You can pay for a pro account, which is $15 a month, and then you can have meetings that'll last as long as they need to last. But that, if you want to use Zoom, that's the way to do it. I mean, you know, there's FaceTime, there's Google Hangouts, you know, there are all sorts of other platforms to do it, but you know, the challenge is learning how to do it and being able to do it well enough to do it. And I'd also say too, along with that planning, you should also experiment with the platform you're going to use, the video conferencing platform you're going to use before the Seder too, because, you know, as we keep learning things about Zoom, the more we use it, that make it easier or sometimes harder in terms of what we're doing. You know, I think with all of these, you know, and I'll just say from my experience in doing this, you know, one of the kind of underrated hard things about this that I've discovered is sort of doing production while also teaching, right? Like, you know, the finding people, the muting and unmuting, making sure the volume is right, getting the messages that pop up here and there and all this, like, you know, and we've started, and Jason Bornstein has begun to help with this for us, to have kind of a production team who can run the technology while we can focus on, you know, leading the Seder, leading the class, or leading the mini, or whatever it might be. But that's something that if you're exploring technology, I'd say don't just expect to FaceTime everybody in that night and not have done a dry run before. I think a dry run will help no matter what platform you use.
Okay, thank you.
Good. Okay, we got everybody, unless we have a second hand raised. Let me let's see. Let's see. Bob and Steve, did you want to add something else? Did I forget to lower your hand before? Here you go. There you go, Steve.
I was asked to ask this question. Are you accepting a sale of chametz by email?
Yes, good question. So that also we're doing it. Actually, we have a form on our website that's it's actually live now, but the link will go out tomorrow. The email, you can sell your chametz through this form on our website. To just fill it out and send it in, and we'll take care of that.
Thank you.
Good. Okay, let me share a couple of things here that I think are, at least I've seen, that are helpful. So first of all, let me just show you. I mentioned it, and I forgot that I brought it up. Assuming I can find it. Sorry, one second. Where did it go? There it is. Sorry, one second. Okay, there we go. Now back in business. Okay. So one thing, why is this not working? All right, good. Share. All right. Now for real. So this is just the Rabbinical Assembly webpage, rabbinical.assembly.org, that I put in the chat. And they have here, right on the side here, preparing for Pesach during a time of pandemic. And you can click on that, and you'll see here there's some nice resources here. Conservative Movement Statement on Gatherings, Communal Expectations of Leadership. Basically, we should stay away from each other. This Kashrut Subcommittee recommendations. This is what I think. This is probably the most important piece to know about here. And here you can see, a few tips to keep in mind when purchasing food for the Seder, and that addresses the Seder plate that the Felix asked about too. It has some other pieces here. It's worthwhile going through. I'm not going to spend the time to read it all with you, but I'd recommend you go to the website. Again, the link will be out in the email to the congregation tomorrow. But it's a good resource to try to help guide you with the Seder. The other thing that I want to share with you that I found that I think is really helpful. Let me just go back to my other sharing screen. Is this article that came out yesterday from Ron Wolfson, who many of you might be familiar with from his writing. I think we had him here a little while ago. It wasn't that long ago that we had him here. But he wrote a really nice piece about, I'm sorry, this is the production. I talk about the production thing and I can't find it. There it is. So there we go. He wrote a really nice piece, and I'll share this link in the chat too, and I'm going to link to it tomorrow with the email that's going to go out. I feel like I'm really building up this email, but there's the link for this article. But a really nice article about how this Seder will be. About some 10 tips for a virtual Seder. So I just want to highlight a few of them for you that I think will be helpful. The first one is what we already talked about, right? Prepare. This idea of it's important to, in advance, to assign things, to even have a Zoom call or a FaceTime call, whatever in advance that allows you to check technology and also to plan out your Seder in a way that makes sense. And along with that, give homework, right? Giving homework for people, especially for people in different places, so right? For the 4 questions, we're going to go to whoever in New York, or we're going to go to whoever in Chicago, or wherever it might be. So you can send it off to different places who maybe can own, so to speak, different parts of the Seder that can help divide things up. We had a question before about some of the pieces or themes of the Seder that might be good topics given what's going on. He writes something I think that's nice here, that this is going to be somewhat a topic of Rabbi Lindemann's Lunch and Learn on Wednesday, when he's going to go more deeply into this. But this idea that, we say, B'chol dor v'dor chayav adam leordet etzmo kilu hu yatsa miMitzrayim. In every generation, it is your responsibility to think of yourself as if you actually had been present at the Exodus from Egypt. How do we achieve this feeling? I mean, remember that name Mitzrayim, which means Egypt, literally means, as he says earlier, the narrow place, like maybe your homes are feeling right now, right? And we're talking about Chag HaCherut, or Zman Cherutenu, the time of our freedom, right? What does it mean to be celebrating our freedom at a time where there are so many restrictions? That there's so many restrictions on us and our movement and what we can do, and that the fact we're not able to be together for families. And Rabbi Lindemann's going to talk more about the freedom piece on Wednesday. But I do think, it's focusing on this idea of Mitzrayim, Egypt, literally meaning the narrow place. What are the narrow places we're feeling like right now, physically, emotionally? How is that something that can be, that we can overcome that? We're celebrating how our people overcome that when they left Egypt. How can we do that today? That's something that is, with, I'd say, teens and older, or even religious school age and older, can be a good conversation point that you can work on. Next, he says, ask questions. Of course, we all know questions are such an important part of the Seder. But I do think, this is a little hard theologically, but, the 10 plagues is an opportunity to talk about what plagues us today. I don't want to say the COVID-19 is a plague because of theological implications, but certainly the way in which you use the word plague is something that, that is afflicting and affecting all of us. So how do we think about that today? How do we talk about that today? And I'd remind you of the teaching of from Rabbi Lewis that I'm sure some of you will remember, which where he would take the Hebrew word for plague, which is nega, and move the ayin at the end to the front, which makes the word oneg, which means joy, right, or pleasure, and it would say it's sometimes how you look at things, whether something's a plague or whether it's a joy. clearly there are certain things in what's happening in our situations today that are clearly plagues and can be hard to be made into joy. But at the same time, I think it's a really powerful and important reminder for us that how we look at our situation right now is going to define, what we remember from it. As many as restrictions as we have, there are also opportunities to be together and connect with each other in different ways, and to experience some things in different ways that can be really helpful and maybe fruitful for conversation. Just to run through a couple more here, innovate, maybe add a symbolic food on your Seder plate to mark this time. That can be a good thing. He makes a joke, too bad beer isn't kosher for Pesach, a Corona would do the trick. I don't know if you have to do that exactly, but it's, it's something that you can think about too. Afikomen gifts, if you usually give your grandkids or your kids Afikomen gifts, they're not going to be there. You try to send something in advance for it to be where they are. Be inclusive, trying to bring people together. He mentions the challenge on Zoom of singing together, but coming together can be be inclusive of everybody that's there. Make changes to tell the story, right? Like we talk about every year. And of course, finally, wash your hands. It's kind of interesting that the Seder has 2 moments of its 15 steps where we wash our hands. And I do think, and maybe some of you have seen, this funny thing that's been going around of, Seder 2020. It's Kadesh Orchatz, Karpash Orchatz. It's after each step, it's wash your hands today. But it does give us an opportunity to talk a little bit about that. And he also, suggests what I think is a nice suggestion too, that if you'd like to recite Birkat HaGomel, the blessing of gratitude that we say after surgery or after an injury or something like that, and he has that text right here, just as a way to acknowledge that even in this time we're able to be together. And adding a Misha Berach for the in the Seder too could be something that could be helpful. So I think just to bring everybody back here, I think Ron has a lot of nice suggestions there. And like I said, I shared that link in the chat. Oops, sorry, I only shared it with one person in the chat. Let me share it with everybody in the chat. And you're welcome to look at it. And it's going to be in the email that we send out tomorrow too, that you can send it around more widely. Seth Mirowitz wrote a question in the chat, and I see there are a couple more hands I'll get to in a moment. At the washing of the hands, can we wash hands with soap? I always, just because we do a ritual wash does not mean that you're exempt from your sanitary wash. I would, I think for the ritual, it's nice to do it as we do it, not necessarily with soap, but there's no reason why not right before it. You couldn't do it's a good time to check in and do a sanitary wash before you do that ritual wash. We all know the value of that today. I see a few other hands that are raised that I'm going to, we're going to hear from a few people. Then I want to hear some reactions from anybody, other thoughts or reactions that are around. So Joanne.
You got me unmuted?
I unmuted you.
Okay, great. I was just wondering, when you send out the email, could you include some kind of a prayer or a bracha for all of our healthcare providers at this time? Those people who are out in the front line,
when
so
it ends.
take care of everybody.
Healthcare providers.
Soup.
Yeah, we can do that. Okay,
Great.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Steve. There you go. Steve Sakharov, did you have a question? Or is your hand just, there you go.
No, that was from before.
Okay, great. And Robert, did you have a question or was that from before or a comment? Hands. I think we're okay. All right, other questions, comments from what Ron had up there. And again, I'm looking around through the videos. If you're able to hit participants and click raise hand, that's just helpful for me to find everybody. Bob, did you want to say something?
Hi there.
No? All right, Gail Harvey, hello.
Just wanted to say, in the past 50 minutes, you brought us a little bit of the joy that you talked about. Thank you.
Oh, well, thank you, Gail. And we're not over yet, so there's more, hopefully more to come. Gary.
Yes, hi. I just wanted to mention that I really enjoyed the breakout session very much. I mean, it was very personalized. There were 4 or 5 of us had a really nice conversation going, and I think it would be great if you can continue to incorporate those in future Zoom sessions.
Great, thank you. Yeah, we've kind of just learned how to use that function, so it's a new toy that we're going to be playing with more and more of, and thanks for saying that. Good. Got a few, Gary, we got Lee.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, so what I'm planning to do regarding the Afikomen is to write down a place in our house that it's hidden. And then we'll have the kids play 20 questions and try and narrow it down, and whoever finds it gets the big prize.
Oh, that's a cute idea. Good, I like that. Right, so they can't search through the house, but they can do through 20 questions, figure out where it is. Thanks for sharing that. Nice idea. Good. Any other comments, ideas, thoughts, reactions that people wanted to share? Doing okay? Okay. All right, good. I just think the other piece I wanted to share with you, just as a reminder to everybody. 3 participants' hands raised. Let me just show you this quick, then we'll go back to those. We do have on our website a lot of great Passover resources. It's tbsonline.org/Passover. This will of course be in the email too. But Alex has really worked and done a wonderful job of bringing a lot of our resources together. You can see them by different parts of the Seder. Also, Cantor Cohn has recorded songs and blessings right here that you can see and you can use. And if you click on that, you'll see here's a whole catalog of Passover songs that match up with the musical note in our Haggadah. And just to give you an example, right, you take Orchatz, we were talking about that before. You go to Orchatz and here's some ideas about things you can do before Passover. Some of this was done before COVID-19, so some of these things might not be possible, but still, I think there's a lot of nice resources in here too, in terms of what to do for the Seder. I want to make sure people remember that. We also have a lot of Passover readings here. We need to update some of these for some of the newer ones, what happened with COVID. But still, there's a lot of nice pieces here, and I really encourage everybody to go to the website and check it out and take the suggestions. There's also a lot of things here that can be printed off and used at the Seder. For example, here's a Passover Mad Libs. You can click on here and open it up. Here we go. Here it comes. There it is. You can open it up and have that out at your Seder, and that's something that you can send around, right? You can send that link around. You can send that idea around to everybody who's going to be coming, and you can say, all right, take over the Passover ad libs that we sent you to print, and you can fill that out. We have a lot of different resources like that are printable from our website that you can go through beforehand and send out to people, or send people to the website to print in advance, so you have some of the same materials as much as possible together at your Seder tables. All right, I saw there are a few more hands that were up here. Let me go back to that. Art.
Hi. Is it possible that Alex Weinberg or Young Borenstein could put together a very brief tutorial on how to set up a meeting? That was
Young Frankenstein or Young Borenstein? What did you say?
There's little to choose between.
For Zoom in particular?
Yes.
Yeah, we can look at doing that. In terms of help with that. I see Steve on here. He can go ask Jason. He says Steve is giving thumbs up, so sold. But yeah, no, that's a nice idea that we can try to do it.
Just a very basic how to start a meeting.
Yeah, I mean, I will say, and John just sent this, YouTube does have some really nice video tutorials for Zoom that we've been sending out that link, and there's some ways to help. I will say it's hard to do virtually. My door is closed, so I can say from experience with a certain other rabbi we have on the staff of helping him use Zoom, it's kind of hard to do when you're not sitting at the same computer and really pointing things out together. And these videos are pretty good, but I can talk to Jason or to Alex about that. We can see if we can put something out there just kind of as for the basics. But I would suggest go to the Zoom website and kind of click support. They have a lot of really good web tutorials there too.
Thank you.
Okay. Sherry.
Sorry, I was just going to say that Zoom every day offers a webinar that goes over the basics on Zoom. That's what I did for Sisterhood, and then I've been watching the tutorials from Zoom in an attempt to learn some things.
Yeah, thank you, Sherry. Yeah, I will say Zoom is pretty good with their videos and tutorials and things like that, better than most places. Lynn.
Yes, well, my son has a custom that at the end of cleaning out for Passover, he and his wife have a beer, so it takes care of all the beer. So if you wanted to, you could go buy a 6-pack of Corona beer and drink a bottle before Passover and put it on your Seder plate.
Hopefully one bottle's enough.
Well,
but
you know, it's at least one.
Okay.
It's up to it's your decision.
Okay, good. Thank you. Anybody else wanted to share a reaction or a thought or things about the Seder? Andy, do I see your hand waving there? Oops, sorry, I muted you. Sorry, go ahead. I got you.
I just wanted to say what Ron had sent out about learning how to set up the meeting on Zoom.
Yeah.
When you click on it, it said it's not available. But I did write it back.
Incorrect link. That is a good video. It's even better if you can see it.
Adds a lot to the conversation.
Well, glad I tried it out first before I sent it around.
It was very short.
Yeah, it's short. It's like a minute long. Yeah, I know that one. All right, good. Cindy, I see your hand up there.
Good.
Thank you.
There you go. Go ahead, Cindy.
I'm just going back to the Afikomen. One of the things that we started years ago when the kids were older and there were no grandchildren is that for the Afikomen, they would tell us where we should donate, what charity we should donate to, because they didn't need anything anymore, or at least not anything we could afford to give them. And I think that this year, want. I think this year it becomes particularly important to remind our families that if we are well and everybody is well, that we are much luckier than many people right now, and that if we can do something to help, that we should do that. So I think that's one of the things we'll do again with the Afikomen.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. And just one other piece, and I'll be in the email tomorrow, but this is important to say too. You know, one of the most important mitzvot of Passover happens before the holiday, which is Ma'ot Chitin, which is making sure people have food for the holiday. And obviously we haven't been able to do our regular Passover food drive that we do every year here. JFCS is still accepting probably what's best, is donating, ShopRite cards, and people will do shopping for it and deliver it. They are going to have a community-wide drop-off, I think, this Friday. I'm still waiting to hear information from them in terms of when exactly that is. If you would like to drop off some food there, and they have some, sanitary conditions to do that. One other thing is TBS has purchased a number of kosher Passover meals from the Meals on Wheels program for JFCS, which I know operates in the community and many people get from that. But we have we purchased some extra ones just in case. So if you or someone is in need of a kosher for Pesach, hot meal, it's please let me know. JFCS is going to help us with the distribution of them, but we have a limited number, of course, because the deadline came up very quickly and had to pass. But we're able to help people with those Meals on Wheels type kosher Pesach meals too for the holiday. So please let me know, or if you or someone you know could benefit from that for the holiday. Dennis.
And I have had a debate about whether this is an appropriate yarmulke. If everybody could see it, I'd like to get a vote on this.
Wait, hold it up a little. Oh, is that, oh, that the hat. Corona? Extra. I don't know. Corona Light, maybe. Corona Extra might be too much. We'll allow it. All right. I see there's a. Oh my, I'm getting some feedback. I see there's a hand from iPhone. I'm not sure who that is. Someone who called in where it says iPhone would like to ask something or say something. Oh, or Vivian. Is it you, Vivian, as I look through this? There we go. Hi, Vivian.
How do I get my name up there?
I'll do it for you.
Oh, thank you. Anyway, I want to thank you, Rabbi Peltz. I had asked you about a week and a half ago if you were going to do anything on Passover preparation, etc., and you came through. So thumbs up, and it's great seeing everyone, and I learned a lot today. Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you, Vivian. I appreciate that. Alvin.
You have to unmute him.
There you go, Alvin.
I took care of it. When that link goes out tomorrow, the email goes out tomorrow, is that going to include the Passover donations to JFCS that you talked about? That'll be there?
Correct. Yes.
Great. Thank you. Yep.
Yep. Good. Okay. Let's see, anybody else? Good job. We're doing okay. All right. Well, I think our time is coming to a close here. I'll leave it open if anyone wants to stay and schmooze for a little while. You know, we're doing our best to to provide resources and conversations and all of this, and as we really are all trying to work together to create our Passover Seders this year in a year that is very different than all other years. And God willing, Neder, as they say, that email will go out tomorrow. Might get delayed till Wednesday, but hopefully tomorrow it'll go out with a lot of this information in it too. And I hope this was helpful. And of course, any questions or things you have, please feel free to reach out to any of us. And we're here to help as much as we can during this time. So thank you, everybody. Good to see you all here. Glad you're on the Zoom today. And coming up on Wednesday, we said Rabbi Lindemann is going to be teaching on that idea of freedom during a time of COVID-19. Give you some more practical pieces for your Seder, and Rabbi Wexler on Friday will be teaching on the Parsha, but it's going to also be Pesach focused, as as is often the case coming up on the Shabbat and on the holiday. So thank you, everybody. Have a good